another lovely day in Dorset, and I'm out on another walk. So if you followed me, you'll remember that I did a walk last week that I entitled Walking in the Footsteps of Priests and Quarrymen. Well, today I'm going to be doing more of the same. It is a slightly different day to what I had then, I must admit. It is quite windy today, so I'm hoping it doesn't affect the microphone too much. I'm having to shout a little bit to make sure it picks me up. But also, because the storm went through last night, I'm suspecting that some of the paths are going to be quite muddy, potentially. So it could be an interesting walk. But one good thing is, I'm hoping that we'll get some waves along the way, because we're heading for the Jurassic coast of Dorset again. So hopefully you'll walk with me, and there'll be lots of interesting stuff to see along the way. So this morning I've parked at Langton Matravers in Durnford Drove, I think is the name of the road. At the end of that road there is a parking area which is Spyway Barn car park, I believe. And at the moment I'm just walking towards the Priest's Way, and what I intend doing is joining the Priest's Way where we left off in the previous video, walking in the footsteps of priests and quarrymen. And I'll put a link at the top of the screen if I can work out how to do it, so that you can click on that and look at that walk as well, because the two walks dovetail together very nicely. So if you followed my last walk, you may remember that we came out of that track there to reach the crossroads, and at this point we turned right to head up to Spyway Barn. This time that will be our way back, in fact. So today we are going to continue along the Priest's Way, which is this track. So at this point we said goodbye to our medieval priest companion last time. This time we'll say hello to our medieval priest companion, who is currently walking with us along the Priest's Way. And I did explain in my previous video that the Priest's Way is a track just over 3 miles long that runs between Worth Matravers and Swanage, and it's the track that the priests used to take between the two churches in those centres. So it's known as the Priest's Way, and it's a nice track to walk down into Swanage. So at this point I will actually put up the map. It'll be just a steel map from OS Maps, so that you can see the route, and then we'll just keep walking towards Swanage. So in that previous video the wind was, I think it was a northeasterly wind, and it wasn't that strong, but it was blowing off the land. Today is a very different animal to that, because it's actually a westerly wind, and it's a strong westerly wind. So at the moment, walking along the Priest track, I'm heading east, and the wind is on my back. On the return journey, because once we reach Swanage, we will head south along the coast path round Durlston Head, Anvil Point, and then head west back along the coast past another few quarries to reach Dancing Ledge, and then from Dancing Ledge we will cut inland back through by Spyway Barn and back to the starting point. So on the way back, heading west, we're going to be walking right into what is a really strong gusty wind, but what I'm hoping is that will whip up some waves, and we'll have some really interesting sea to film. And this time, because last time I didn't go down onto Dancing Ledge, but I think this time I'm hoping that I'll be able to get down onto the Dancing Ledge lower ledge and do some filming there and just show you around Dancing Ledge with its wonderful swimming pool, in inverted commas, carved out of the rock by the Quarrymen. But anyway, more about that later. And over in the distance we can already see Swanage. It's actually quite pleasant walking down here because I'm sheltered from the wind at the moment because of the hedgerows, but it is noticeably different to what it was during the filming of my previous quarry walk, because then it was minus something, it's freezing and the mud was all solid. But today when I parked up, my car said it was 10 degrees, so it's positively spring-like in terms of temperature. But because of the heavy rain last night, I'm already noticing that the paths are much slippier than they were last time, and that might make it difficult heading back west along the coast, because that's often quite a muddy bit of the coast path there. But anyway, we'll see. I'm sure it'll be fine. That's the way we've just come. We're heading up here. Now, according to my map software, the walk today should be 8.5 miles, but I bet it works out more than that. I have this kind of catchphrase, detour to explore, and I think that probably sums up my walking, because I take so many detours that invariably it works out more. I reckon potentially this could be a 9 or 10 mile walk, I would imagine. Often it's detour to explore, often it's detour to take photographs, which I also do a lot, or film. Sometimes it's detour simply because I've missed a path, missed a turning, or gone off route somehow because we're not paying attention. But hopefully that's not too often, and it certainly won't happen today, because I've done this walk so many times that I think I know it pretty clearly. But it should be a really good walk. There is lots of interesting stuff to see, and the coast should be totally awesome. So yeah, stay with me, the best is coming. I have to say, I really like that house. I admire it every time I come here, with all those roof lights. It must be amazingly light in there, and the views it's got are awesome. Don't think I could afford it though somehow. So I'm a couple of miles into the walk now, and I've just realised that my Garmin watch has crashed, so I don't know the exact distance. I'm guessing a couple of miles, because that's Swanage down there, which is where we're heading now. And it's a beautiful morning again, apart from the wind, which I'm hoping will pay dividends for us later, but apart from that, it is absolutely lovely morning. Bright sunshine now, and mild as well. So we've already reached the outskirts of Swanage, and we're dropping down into the town. It's a large seaside town. Actually, I don't dislike Swanage, I must admit. I'm not usually a towny person, but I quite like walking through it because there's some nice interesting things. But there are actually two names synonymous with Swanage. One is John Molam and the other is his nephew George Burt. I've already met George Burt on a previous walk because he was responsible for putting up the obelisk on top of Ballard Down, and we will come across him down here as well on this walk. But John Molam, of course, is the theatre is named after him, Molam Theatre. Interesting name, Priest Stable Cottage. I mean, I have read that the priest used to ride a horse between Swanage and Worth Matravers, so I wonder if maybe that was a stable where he used to keep the horse. Interesting, I don't know that. Might have to investigate that. Well, I said earlier my catchphrase was detour to explore, and that's just what we've done. We've detoured off the main track to come and look at this. So it's a very pretty part of Swanage. It's the mill pond. It's some nice old cottages around it. So I did ask my medieval priest companion a question about that cottage, but he was strangely silent on the subject. I wonder why. Anyway, he can't respond now because we've bid farewell and he's gone his separate ways down to St Mary's Church down the bottom. Swanage now, and in here you can see two piers. There's the new pier farthest over, and the structure or the uprights of the old pier that is still there. And over in the background is Ballard Down, which is where we were in a video which wasn't that long ago. We're following the coast path right round to Peverill Point. So I mentioned earlier about John Burt and his legacy to Swanage, and this clock tower is another of his. This was built in 1854 and was originally at the southern end of London Bridge. It was a memorial to the Duke of Wellington. It was disassembled in 1867, but George Burt saved it and brought it down to Swanage and erected it there. So we've reached Peverill Point now. That's a nice waves here. So we've got a bit of climbing to do now to get up to the top here, and we're going to follow the cliff top around to Durlston Head, which is across the bay there. And in fact, if you look carefully, you can actually make out the top of Durlston Castle, which we will see shortly. A castle that is not a castle, in fact. So as we climb up what is known as the Common, you get a really good view all over Swanage and the Purbeck Hills from here. But our route continues upwards. So we're just coming up to Durlston Castle in a minute. Well, this is all part of Durlston Country Park, which, well, as it says, is a country park, but it's a country park which is really down to George Burt again, because he actually bought the land at Durlston Head originally and set up Durlston Country Park and all sorts of other things here as a tourist attraction. And we'll see some of those as we go around. Somebody in the water down there. Looks like they're doing a bit of surfing, but doesn't look like it's very successful. If we pan round, you can see where we're going. You can just see the top of Durlston Castle. So I said earlier that this is thanks to George Burt. Both George Burt and John Molam were both involved in the stone industry, which figures, I guess. And it was in 1887 that George Burt set up this tourist attraction, which is now Durlston Country Park. And a lot of the things we see as we walk around were thanks to George Burt, and opened in 1887. So this has been a kind of country park or a tourist attraction for sort of 100 and getting on for 140 years now. Yeah, okay, that's not thanks to George Burt, that one. That's more modern. Recent addition, I think. There is Durlston Castle, which is not a castle. As I said earlier, Durlston Castle is actually a folly, and it was built by George Burt as a restaurant, not as a castle. And I think it's now the visitor centre, and I think there's tea rooms and so on in there as well. At this point we did another little detour. The castle up the top, we've come round that now, but we need to take a look at the globe. Another feature installed by George Burt. There's the globe. Solid rock, Portland stone, I think. Actually made in pieces and built together. And we are up, oh, stick's not long enough, up there, British Isles. One of the things that he did do also, which is well known for, is put lots of these stones and sayings and things and poems. There's Australia. Amazing piece of stonework, I would say that is. And you can get permission to write your name if you want to on a piece of stone. It's to stop people from writing it where it's not wanted. There's another one. I think we've probably done enough of the tourist attractions today. I think it's time to head out into the open coast again and follow the rugged coast through to Dancing Ledge. But I think before we do that, I might just stop and have some lunch while I'm sheltered from the wind. While I eat lunch, I can keep an eye out for dolphins, because we do get them off here. Never around when I'm around, but Yeah, peregrines and dolphins we see along this coast. Right, lunch over, we're back on the trail again. Heading west. But there's a couple of interesting things to see before we get to the open cliff path. So the first of these is here, is that there's not much to see here. The date 1887, an entrance to Whim Caves, which would have been down there at one point. They are unfortunately closed. I've actually been in them because they were open. They've been open in my lifetime, but we'll see them, the actual caves, in a minute. And there's the information board. I think I mentioned this in one of my earlier videos. Information board which I cribbed, and I drew that sketch for myself. I might post that in this video as well, because down there is Whim, and the picture I drew is pertinent because it was actually based on Whim caves, which are in fact not caves really. It's a quarry, disused quarry. Pretty impressive waves down here. So Whim is up over there. We call it Whim Caves, but it's technically a quarry. It was worked in the 18th century mainly, closed in 1812. It's thought to be named after a man called George Tilley, who worked at the quarry, but it closed. It was opened as a tourist attraction, but unfortunately it became unsafe, so they've had to close Whim Caves now, and it's all sealed off and you can't go in there anymore. But as I say, I think when I was younger, I certainly went in there when I was younger. I'm not sure when it closed finally. I think probably 1976, so I would have been old enough easily to have gone in there and explored those. You can get a better view of the caves from up here. Yeah, shame they're closed really. So the final thing to look at before we head off on the coast heading west is the lighthouse. So this is the Anvil Point lighthouse, opened in 1881, still operating today, although it's fully automated now. And I believe the various buildings, I think, are probably holiday accommodation, I think. I'm not sure. But we're about to leave the protection of Durlston Head and Anvil Point and head straight into the wind as we walk west. looking for all the world like a mobile phone mast, are actually mile markers. When you line them up and you're in a ship out at sea or a boat and you're trying to do a measured mile, you've got nothing to obviously get a fix on. So you line two of these up at this end. At the other end, which is at Durlston Head, there is another two, and you line those two up, and when you get there, you know you've done 1 mile. And it's a way of testing the speed of ships and boats. So there's 4 of these. So you can probably hear better now because I'm facing away from the wind. So that's the coast one. And there's the second one inland. So I thought we'd have another little detour to explore here. In my previous quarries video we came down here. This is, well, I called it Blackers Hole, but it's actually Whiteware Quarry, which goes right down near the sea on the lower ledge. So I thought I'd come down here again this time because I think we might get some good waves across the rocks down here. Well, that was awesome. I love that little quarry, Whiteware Quarry. It's one of my favourites, I think, especially because it's the first ever wild camp I had overnight was there. Cowboy camp, sleeping under the stars with bats flying above me. It's such an awesome and memorable night. But now we're We're going to head up over to Dancing Ledge, which is our last stopping point of the day, because from there we'll head inland to back to Spyway Barn and then on back to Langton Matravers. I should say again, of course, that if you go into these quarries or down any of these places, you do so at your own risk, because they are obviously not the safest of places. Rocks are slippery and crumbly, so if you choose to follow my footsteps, you just need to be aware of that and obviously take extreme care. But what a beautiful day this is. Sunshine is just amazingly clear. There is Dancing Ledge down there. We'll head down there, but looking across at the sun, looks like we might lose that soon because there's a bank of cloud. So one famous person who might have swum in that swimming pool down there was Ian Fleming, the writer of the James Bond novels. He was apparently educated at Durnforth School in Langton Matravers, and they were one of the prep schools that used to come here with the children for them to be able to swim safely in that swimming pool that was blasted out of the rocks. But I don't think it'd be very safe today, would it? I was hoping to go down on the lower ledge, but no chance of that. It is quite difficult anyway, because you have to climb down over these rocks, so it's quite difficult to actually find a way down, but you can do it. I've done it most times. When I come here, I'll go down there and just have a mooch. But this sea is awesome today. I just want to keep filming it. I guess the sea backs up one of the main theories for the name of this place, Dancing Ledge. The main theory, I think, is that the waves dance across the ledge at high tide, and I think that's exactly what they're doing. Oh, the sun's going down, setting soon, but that was some end to a coastal walk, I think. Dancing ledges with a stormy sea. That was amazing. Such a great way to end a walk. Well, not that the walk's ended, because I've still got to walk back up the hill to Spyway Barn and then back inland from there to Langton Matravers to my starting point. So there's still a ways to go yet, but you kind of feel almost that that's the main course finished, and the what's to come is a bit flat. Well, will be a bit flat in comparison to that, but yeah, that was totally awesome. I'm climbing back out of the quarry now. Last look at Dancing Ledge and the coast before we head off up the hill. I'm at the top of the last hill, just looking down the coast to St Albans Head, where we were the other day. So this is, well, we're losing the light, so it's the end of the filming for today. I've still got a bit further to go. I've got to go inland to Spyway Barn and then along to Langton Matravers. But it's a flat walk from here, so I think now is the time to switch off the camera before I lose the light completely, head off back to the car. So just to say thanks so much for coming with me. I've absolutely loved it, especially the Dancing Ledges waves. That was phenomenal, and I really hope you've enjoyed it too. If you have, then do hit the subscribe button, which is basically my picture, I think, which comes up at the end of the video, and follow me, because I've got lots of other videos in the pipeline and planned. So do follow me. Well, I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks so much for coming, and for now, this is me, the Dorset Rambler, saying until next time.